Alright, so first thing boss wants is for us to get our environment set up. We're here at expo.dev. Expo is a suite of tools and environment that helps us run and develop React Native applications the easy way. If you join a company, or if you already are at a company that has a React Native project, it's very likely that they have a ejected Expo project, or it is likely that they have a React Native project that has the iOS and Android folders to manage both apps separately. But that's not the way we want to be doing things anymore. Expo is definitely the best way to do things at this point. So let's go ahead and get started. There's installation down here. We're going to click that. We're going to want to install Node. So if I go ahead and open up this tab, switch over to this tab, I would recommend getting the LTS 20.9.0. However, most developers will use a tool called a Node version manager. What I would recommend to do to install Node is to download LTS, and then the version manager we should use after that, we'll use N. And after we have Node installed, you can go ahead and install N by doing a command in your terminal, npm install global N. So I'm opening up terminal, I've got bash running. Okay, we've installed N. The next thing to do is install Git if you don't have it installed already. If you are on Mac, you probably already have it installed, but it's probably a good idea to update it. And Watchman if you are on Mac OS or Linux. We're on Mac OS here, so I'm going to go ahead and go over to Watchman and see some different ways we can install this. I personally like Homebrew, and I use Homebrew for most of these dependencies. So I would also install Homebrew to manage Mac dependencies. In order to do that, I'm going to go to Homebrew here, brew.sh. We're going to copy this command, this bash shell command. We're going to open up terminal, copy it in, and make sure that Homebrew is installed properly. It's going to ask you for your password, so just type that in. Your output might look a little bit different. That's okay, just follow the prompts, and you'll be fine. And the next thing to do, of course, is install Watchman from that previous article. Brew install Watchman, pretty simple. You can copy that and just paste it in, and go ahead and install it. Alright, the very last dependency that I will ask you to install is ZSH. Oh My ZSH is a great plugin framework. I don't even know how to describe it, honestly. It's just this ginormous tool set around ZSH, which is the Z shell. And there's syntax highlighting, there's plugins. It's just a fantastic community of tools. Bash is included with every Mac and almost every Linux distribution that I know of, and newer versions of Windows with the native Linux kernel and Linux subsystems. However, ZSH, highly recommended. I'm going to be using ZSH from here on out, and so you'll see my terminal change from using ZSH. So in order to install Z shell, I would recommend going to Oh My Z shell or Oh My ZSH and reading the installation instructions. This is the GitHub page for it. But you can see down here, there's a basic installation for all of this. And this is one of the first things I do on any new computer is install Z shell, specifically Oh My ZSH. This is the main point that I think you should read. Alright, back on the Expo dev page. I'm going to copy this command and go back to terminal. One thing we want to do first is print working directory. We see that I'm at my home directory, which is cool. But I don't really want to put my project there. You can, of course, if you would like to. I'm going to put my project on the desktop just to make it easy. But before we run that command, we actually need to make sure that we're using the proper version of Node. So node-v will give us the version of Node that we're using. This is actually, in my case, at this point in time in 2023, the LTS version of Node, the long-term support version of Node. Great, 20.9.0. However, it might be newer for you. If you're seeing a lower number than this, though, you're probably not using the long-term support version of Node. And you'll have to use N, the Node package manager that we installed previously, in order to update that version. So you can do N LTS, long-term support, and it will install, this version or higher for you. If you'd like to know other commands for Node version manager, you can actually do -- help, and it'll tell you all the commands that you can do here. You can also install specific versions. So if you'd like to follow along exactly, you can install that version that I'm using, 20.9.0. Alright, so npx create expo app template, and we're going to be choosing blank TypeScript. We're going to name this music me. And right now it's installing all of the Node dependencies. You can see some of the dependencies, and it's installing right now: expo pretty, require reg, cache, expo modules, errors. Lots of goodies. React Native. Fantastic. So we have the project created. So as you can see here, it's just baby stepping us along. So we're going to go ahead and cd music me into our project. Okay, now we're at the fun part. So let's go ahead and install Visual Studio Code if you haven't already. And I'm going to get it for a Mac. Actually, I already have this installed, so I'm not going to click on this. But go ahead and click on it and run through the installer. And go ahead and open up Visual Studio Code. Alright, Visual Studio is open. Alright, Visual Studio Code is open. Now we're going to open the project. You can do that by clicking on this little file explorer here and then doing open folder, or you can do file, open folder. Click here. We're going to open the project. Desktop, music me. Open that up. Huzzah! We have a project. One of the things we love about Visual Studio Code is the ability to have the integrated terminal next to your code. I can open up the integrated terminal using Control tilde. Just opened up at the bottom. And it will actually execute my default shell, which in this case is Z shell. Yay! You can also click terminal, new terminal, in order to have it pop up like that. So the next thing we want to do in order to make the real magic happen is to install the iOS simulator on our Mac. And so to do that, we're going to go ahead and follow the Expo docs here, and to install Xcode. So go ahead and open up the App Store, the Mac App Store, grab Xcode from here. I have it installed already. Ooh, 3.1 stars. Lot to work on, I guess. And the next thing that we want to do is actually install the command line tools. So as you can see here, if we go to open up Xcode, go to settings, locations, command line tools, and select the most recent version here. Should be good. Alright, so the next thing to do is just to run the start command, npx expo start. You might get a pop-up asking for permission to access the desktop folder. Just go ahead and click OK. Otherwise it won't work. And we get a bunch of options here. So if we expand the terminal by clicking and dragging, we can see a fancy QR code. We can see some note about a URI, which is specifically for the Expo app, Expo Go app. We see a bunch of commands here that we can use to open Android emulator, to open the iOS simulator, and in our case we want to open the iOS simulator, so we're just going to, while clicking into this terminal window in VS Code, We're going to press I, and it's going to open up this project on iOS. It's going to spin up a simulator for us, specifically iPhone 15. And there it is. As you can see, simulator has popped up, and it's fetching all of the JavaScript code it needs to execute the app that we just created. So we've created the shell for a mobile app. Expo provides all of the native dependencies that we need underneath, as well as React Native. This provides primitives for views, for working with the native APIs, including AV, audio, video, networking, debugging, all of the good stuff. Right now, the app code has been uploaded to the device, and as you can see, the app is executed. The app is running. We did it. Let's go ahead and check that. Go ahead and open up app.tsx, and we're gonna have to minimize this window a little bit. See that bad boy? Recognize this? If you're a React wizard, you might. It might look a little bit different though, because this is React Native. You see, instead of maybe a div or some HTML, we have these components that are React Native specific. We have view, we have text, we have status bar. And this component, we have styles, and they look a little bit different than CSS. If none of that made sense to you, that's okay, but I would recommend definitely going and learning a bit of basic React. It might help a little bit. Actually, it will help a lot of bit following this course. But let's go ahead and change this text here. Let's just see what happens. Hello, music me. And I'm gonna go ahead and save. And we see it updated. Perfect. Alright, the next step for us is to create a repository for our project. So I'm gonna go ahead and create a new repository on GitHub. I'm on github.com/new. Of course, if you don't have an account, create an account first. I'm gonna choose the owner, which is me. And repository name, music me. And we're gonna go ahead and leave the description blank for now. And if you have GitHub Premium, make it private. Otherwise, you can make it public, whatever is fine with you. I'm gonna go ahead and make it private. And we're gonna go ahead and create a repository. Don't worry about any of this stuff. If it doesn't match yours, don't worry about the marketplace apps. Just go ahead and create a repository. Alright, so I've created a repository. And I'm going to copy this, so GitHub makes it easy. HTTPS or SSH, either one is fine. I'm going to use SSH in this example. And you can follow the instructions here, but I'll go ahead and walk through it with you. We can actually just copy and paste these if you would like it, and paste it into the terminal. Coming back to Visual Studio Code, let's create a new terminal by clicking the split terminal. There's two ways to do it. You can create a new tab, which hides all of this stuff, but I prefer to have both visible. So I'm gonna click on split terminal here, and there we go. I'm gonna go ahead and paste in those commands from earlier, and hit enter. And basically what we did just now is we added a remote to Git. If I do git remote dash verbose or dash v, you'll see that we've added the remote, which is like the Git server, at that URI. Alright, so the next thing we need to do is we see if we do git gd, if we have ZSH installed, you can see the difference. Another thing you can do, which I like better in Visual Studio Code, is you can go to the Git source control tab here and click on the changes. So let me expand this a little bit. You'll see that you have a bunch of changes here. My font is really big so that you can see it. Let me go ahead and bump it down a little bit so that all of it fits into the screen here. Fantastic. And you see that we had the default, and we changed the text to hello music me, and then we changed some of the styling apparently. I think that was because of prettier, which is like a code formatter. It changed these single quotes to double quotes. Doesn't really matter at all. It's just a style thing. in this case. Alright, so let's go ahead and add that change. I'll click the little plus button here to stage that change. And we're going to add a commit message. I'll say initial commit. We're going to commit. And then we're going to sync changes, which is going to upload it to our repository. We're going to move over to Brave browser, or Chrome browser, or Firefox, or Edge, or whatever you're using. I'm going to go ahead and refresh the page, and you should see the code appear in a second. There we go. So you've set up the project. We are ready to take the next step to please boss.